My last video about Apple's upcoming releases dropped precisely at the same time as Apple's announcement of the M3 MacBook Air, which is the one product I said that they should do that way. So, let's have an event. Want the latest Apple news, leaks and rumours? Subscribe and ring the bell. The iPad Pro's design is now getting about as long in the tooth as a walrus, having got its current design, give or take, on October the 30th, 2018. That is 1,960 days ago. Feels like maybe that's too many. And it was actually the first of Apple's product lineup in recent years to take the slab sides, 2 years ahead of the iPhone 12 generation in 2020. So what this iPad design looks like could be genuinely fascinating as the direction that we could see Apple's other designs follow in future. But what will it look like? Now there are rumours, but wouldn't you prefer to find out an event? Oh, you came here to me for this? Okay, fine. Here's the specs. Unfortunately, they don't really clear much up beyond it being thinner, but the edges could be rounded from this image, or you could interpret these drawings more like the classic iPhone 4 with the glass sandwich over metal, perhaps now with a titanium frame. Admittedly, that's a lot more titanium than an iPhone would need, which could be pretty pricey. And a big glass back on a thinner but bigger device where it's easy to get leverage sounds like the recipe for bendy iPads, and not in the apparently cool supposed to fold way.
Important.
However, a glass, or at least partially glass back, would allow for another feature that we've been hearing about, MagSafe, coming to the iPad Pro. Wireless power has a notoriously bad time passing through what is in essence a big Faraday cage, but even a glass circle around the Apple logo would allow for this. Now we're expecting, of course, new OLED displays and front-facing cameras, which will move to the landscape side. That's interesting in itself because moving that camera means that the Apple Pencils won't be sticking there on that side to charge anymore, so either the Apple Pencil changes or maybe sticks to the top now? I don't know. Maybe it's even just going to be USB-C charging like the randomly solo released version from last year. And that kind of wraps up the iPad Pro's new features that we know about, but we've also been hearing that the Magic Keyboards with trackpads for these will have more of a MacBook aesthetic. We're talking aluminium instead of the not exactly durable fabrics. Sure, it's a more premium experience, but for me the iPad should be more about doing iPad-y stuff. Sure, type on it if you need to, but don't try and replace workstations with these, even with M3 inside. Then we're also hearing about the M2 iPad Airs, which at best may be exciting if they move the FaceTime camera on them as well, and we're also hearing about redesigned camera bumps at the back, but otherwise they'll be essentially the iPad Pros without the ProMotion display, a year older M chip, and that's basically the whole thing. Oh, except that of course one of them is going to be the size of the current big old iPad Pro as well. That's kind of cool. But I don't know, I think iPads are fine not being enormous. Is that just me? I mean, other than that, like there's nothing super exciting. I'm not really sure why the iPad Air still needs to be a thing, but hey, they are. And then rounding out the iPads are the 10th gen, which is the one that most people should buy, and the iPad mini, which I want to buy, and neither of these are likely to arrive in spring. They're going to both stay with the A-series chips, which would fit just fine at an iPhone event, honestly, in September, as some nice little sideshow items. And then what is at best an outside chance of arriving at this event, but there is hope, and I'll tell you why in just a second. The Home View or Home Hub or whatever they call it, the little home pod with an iPad screen taped to the side of it that's designed for your kitchen, maybe your bedside, maybe somewhere else. Let me know in the comments where you'd put your Home Hub. It's basically a great speaker with a more kind of occasional display. Perfect for a bit of background YouTube while you're working in the kitchen, hands-free FaceTime calls, music, looking up recipes, you know, iPad stuff, but like with a nicer speaker. And you know what? I'd love it to be on a charging base, like a kettle kind of base where you pick it up and you can move it around and it charges on that. That might be quite good. So perhaps Apple has finally realised that not everyone wants to dedicate a $1,500 iMac to their kitchen table, unlike most of their promotional images, but something close to like a $600 device that you can stream video, play great sounding music, browse the web, take calls. That might make more sense. And the latest software versions that Apple has released reference something with the resolution of an iPad mini running a version of tvOS. Now, if that doesn't sound like the Home Hub that we've been expecting, I don't really know what would. But to temper your expectations for this, some have said that it isn't expected until 2025, but still, if that's the case, why is it in iOS now? publicly. My only thoughts is that supply chain is not showing this because they're using the same display as the iPad mini, so they're just buying those things up and they're putting them in those instead of in iPads, and that would be a really good way of hiding it. But anyhow, the iPad Pro getting a full redesign, a completely new product category like the Home Hub, the bigger iPad Airs. I don't care what Mark Gurman says, they'll both be ripe for an event, and if I remember correctly, he said there was not going to be an October event coming last year either, just before Apple's Scary Fast Halloween Eve event. So the man is generally reliable, but he's not infallible. Throw in the traditional new iPhone colour for spring, just to get a little bit more of that news attention, and who knows, M3 and M3 Pro Mac Minis? Then you've got yourself a full old meal right there. So March, early April event, something like that, fingers crossed. And thank you so much for watching, guys. We have got a great podcast coming up for you this week. It's already in the can, it's already in the edit, so make sure you don't miss that, with Sam Cole from the Genius Bar. And if you've got any questions that you want me to answer in a future video, hashtag #IGaveAnswers down there. Thank you to the Patreons over there, and I'll see you in the next one over there. Want the latest Apple news, leaks and rumours? Subscribe and ring the bell.